everyone, how's it going? So welcome to yet another Monday Q&A, and today is going to be a video in which I dedicate the entire video to one specific question. This question comes from Casey Nina from Instagram, and she asks, what has motivated you for being patient and making the effort for getting into medical school after finishing your masters? Now, the reason why I wanted to address this question is because I have often come across people, either my friends or just people who I have happened to meet, who have said to me, you know, like, I'm a pharmacist now, or I'm a nurse now, or I'm a PhD student now, and I want to apply to medicine, but it just feels like a lot of work and a lot of effort at this part, especially because I've just finished this thing that I'm doing, and I have the opportunity to go out there and work and find a job. So I don't know if it's going to be worth it. I don't know how to, push myself to go and pursue this thing. So that's the reason why I wanted to address it. So I guess a brief introduction to my trajectory in case you are new here. I have just finished my first year of graduate entry medicine at Birmingham. And prior to that, I had been working as a research assistant at King's College for 2 years, and before that I had done my master's at King's. And that's all after doing my undergraduate in biomedical sciences. So that's sort of been my journey, and I kind of relate to this question a lot because after I did my master's, I did want to study medicine then, but if you followed my journey, you know that I applied 1 year for medicine, I was unsuccessful, so I had to work another year and then reapply. So safe to say that it did take a lot of effort, and I did have to kind of conjure up a lot of motivation, but I didn't want to just sit here and tell you all of the things that just motivated me. I wanted to share this video in a way that you guys can, pick parts of it apart, like take things apart and, take away something that will be useful for you, that will be able to motivate you. Having said that, let me just answer the question as it was asked and tell you what kept me motivated specifically, and then afterwards I will talk to you about some pointers and some of the general tips and things that I've picked up along the way. So for me personally, the honest answer is that once I had made the decision to study medicine, and I made this decision a couple of months into my masters. Now, I've spoken about the reasons as to why I wanted to do medicine and stuff in previous videos, so I'm not going to talk about it here. But once I had decided that that's what I wanted to do, the thing that kept me most motivated was that I was genuinely looking forward to doing all of the steps that it takes to apply, with the exception of admissions tests. They have never been my favourite, they will never be my favourite, they are just not fun. But I mean, in terms of getting work experience and shadowing and doing voluntary work and doing all of those sort of things, I just found them really fun. In my effort to apply for medicine, I went and learned how to become a phlebotomist. I volunteered at a hospice. I met a bunch of clinicians by going and shadowing them and trying to get work experience. All of those were really fun, and the fact that it was enjoyable just made the process a little bit easier. Now, I should probably say at this point is that it wasn't all fun and games and rosy throughout the whole process. I definitely wasn't patient at times, and as I said, I was unsuccessful the first time I applied, so I don't want to take away from the fact that it can be hard and there are times where you literally want to give up. And in fact, on both occasions where I sat admissions tests, I think I even have these videos on my channel where I've just made a video. It's like, I've given up on UCAT now. I'm done. I'm done with it. I don't have time. I'm just gonna forget about it. So it hasn't always been rosy. But in the times where it was tough, there were a couple of things that did really keep me going. One of the first things, and I genuinely have to credit so many people, is that I had amazing friends. Not only did I have really supportive and amazing friends who were already in medical school or already doctors who were sort of rooting for me and telling me to just keep going and just being supportive. I also had a lot of friends who, weren't in medicine or that field, but they were just very supportive in general. And that's actually one of the biggest things that I will say to you guys, is that try and find your cheerleaders. And, if you're sat here thinking, well, I don't have a lot of those people in my life, just turn to YouTube, turn to Instagram, turn to all of these online forums full of lots of other people who want to do the same thing as you, and encourage them, and you will be encouraged back. And that way you can form this sort of support network and push each other to keep going. Especially lately, I've been noticing that there have been tons and tons of Instagram pages popping up of lots of people sharing their experience of applying to medicine. So I think if you do want to have a bit of a pal and a bit of a friend or a community of people, get on Instagram, follow all of these pages, and just make friends and get through it together. Now, the other thing that kept me super motivated was that after I had finished my master's, I was working as a research assistant at King's, and I was working within a hospital trust. And a part of my role, other than doing lab work and research work, was to go into clinics and speak to patients and get their consent for taking blood samples or tissue samples that we can use in our research. Now, not only was this incredible because it meant I get to A, talk to patients, which is great, and B, talk to patients about the research that I'm doing, which is even better. But I would say the thing that topped it all off was that some of the clinicians that I worked with were absolutely brilliant. And I just remember there was this one specific clinician, I'm not going to say her name, but she was brilliant and she knew that I wanted to apply to medicine. So whenever I was sitting in her consultation room as she was seeing patients, occasionally if an interesting case came along, she would just be like, Atousa, do you want to come over here, like listen to this, or have a feel of this. And whenever the patient was okay with it, she would allow me to do the examinations. And having people like that was amazing. And that was another one of the things for me personally that really kept me motivated. Now, those are some of my personal experiences. Now, I'm going to get into some more general stuff that might be a little bit more applicable, or it can be a bit more, I guess, broad in terms of how to stay patient and keep up the motivation. But before I get into that, I do want to let you guys know that I have recently opened up a Redbubble store, and you can see I've got some of my artwork behind me there. So if you are interested in picking up something that's a little bit different, that is a bit like, medically, arty, sciencey, anatomically, whatever, if you're interested in anything like that, I will put the link below so you guys can go check it out. Anyway, let's continue. So the first thing that I have written down is kind of turn the whole process into like a challenge or a goal, or like make things small accomplishments to work towards. And I think checklists are one of the best ways to do this because it allows you to track your progress. So I don't know about you, but something that I personally find quite motivating is creating a checklist of everything that you need to do. So you could say, find a reference, look for work experience in this area, look for work experience in that area, blah, 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 write a personal statement draft, or whatever else it is that you need to do. Make that checklist and then slowly go through and work through it. And I personally find that very gratifying to I guess, look back on and go, oh yeah, so I've checked this off now and I've done that now. So try and make it like a game or something that you can track the progress of. I would say here though, don't make the checklist so overwhelming that it does the opposite of motivating you and almost like scares you into not doing anything, because I have done that before and it is not fun. Now, the second point I have written down is find something you already enjoy doing and link it with some of the steps that you have to take throughout your medical application. So for example, for me personally, one of the things I love is I love new experiences and getting to speak to new people. So pairing that up with the tasks that I had to do as part of my work experience or as part of the application process, I always thought to myself, okay, so who can I speak to that may be able to help me a little bit with this? Or who can I reach out to that may allow me to do some work experience? And this was a super fun process for me because I got to meet a bunch of friends, especially through like Instagram or other YouTubers who are medical students. Being able to reach out in that way and arranging to meet people for coffee, or when it came to work experience, getting to know certain clinicians and saying, well, hi, is it okay if I come and sit in your consulting room for like an hour or something? Having all of those experiences, not only was it fun for me, but it also was part of the whole bigger picture. Now, you may be completely different. So for you, you might be a little bit more introverted and you may find the aspect of meeting lots of new people and going to lots of new places daunting. But for example, let's say you really enjoy writing. You can almost pair that up with some of the experiences that you are hoping to get. So you can think to yourself, well, okay, if I go out and get all of these experiences, then it will give me opportunities for writing material and I'll be able to reflect on them. So as you can see, you can pair them up like that. Now, on the point of mentioning Instagram earlier, another one of the pairings you could do, for example, you may be somebody who loves posting on social media, and because of this, you may be one of the people who decides to create an Instagram page to follow your journey. So you can think to yourself, okay, well, every time I do a certain step that is towards my medical application process, then I can take a picture and share it with other people. So that itself can be your motivator. The third thing is to factor in the amount of time you need in order to complete these tasks. Because for me, nothing makes me lose motivation more than being under time pressure to finish something that, I could have done weeks or even months ago. Now, I mentioned one of the reasons that I really disliked my admissions test. I mean, other than the fact that I don't like them in general very much, one of the other reasons why I found them particularly stressful is because on both occasions where I applied to medicine, I left them very much until the last minute, until they became this daunting thing, and then I had no motivation to even go after them because I thought to myself, well, I don't have enough time now, there's not much more I can do about it now. Whether that's true or not is a debate for another day, but as when it comes to motivation, that time pressure really killed the motivation or the patience I had to pursue it. And the same thing can be said for any of the other things that I said were fun. Work experience and chasing down some of those experiences were only fun because it felt like I had a long time to do them. If I had left everything for the last 3 weeks before the medicine application deadline, then I'm going to tell you that it's not going to be a fun experience because you're going to be panicking and ringing people and chasing people and trying to see what you can squeeze in that time. So try and be prepared if you can. Because in essence, having that time allows you the opportunity to keep yourself motivated. Number 4, and I'm not going to go into too much detail with this because I already talked about it earlier, is find yourself a support network, find yourself some cheerleaders, and be cheerleaders and supportive people to other people who are going through the same process. Number 5, and I personally love doing this, is that if you do come across medical professionals, so nurses, doctors, physicians associates, healthcare assistants, anybody who works in that general area, and you may come across these people when you're doing work experience, then ask them questions about their journey and about their experience of working in healthcare. Most people love sharing their story and telling you about how they got to where they are. So if you are chatting to one of the nurses at, say, I don't know, shadowing experience, you could just be like, well, what's it been like? What is it like working with patients? What is it like being a nurse? And hearing those stories and hearing where people have come from and where they're heading and what their stories were, again, all of that can be really, really motivating. And take note of the fact that I'm saying to do this with all medical staff, not just doctors. And I'm going to throw in a little bit of a tangent point here just because we're on the subject, but I've noticed that a lot of younger students, for example, if you're the typical 16 or 17-year-old who wants to apply to medicine, I know it can be really easy to get caught up in, well, I don't want to be a nurse, so I'm not going to speak to nurses, or I'm not interested in psychology, so I'm not going to speak to psychologists. But actually, you don't just have to get motivation and get advice and things like this just from doctors. So speak to everybody, question everyone. Everybody's got something new to teach you. And that in itself can be hugely motivating. Now, number 6, and I would probably argue that this is the biggest motivator above everything else, and that is to somehow find a greater meaning as to why you're doing this whole thing. There's a bit of a running joke amongst the graduate students because we kind of say, well, we must be all a little bit mad to come back to do all of this all over again. Because most of us had nice lives, we had good jobs, or we had just graduated from our undergrad. So we do like to joke a lot about the fact that you do have to be a little bit mad to come back. But I would say that that's not madness. It's, in a lot of cases, some sort of greater meaning or calling or something or reason that a lot of people have chosen to go back into this. So to answer your question initially, I know I feel like we're kind of far away from it now, but you said, how do we keep the patience and the motivation after a master's? That's what I would say to you, is that it's even more important for a graduate to have a bigger meaning, a deeper meaning as to why they're doing this. Because it is hard work. It's objectively hard work. And if you have an internal driver, that will keep you going. And that is something that's very personal and very different and very specific to different individuals. So have a little think about what is that bigger meaning for you. So I hope that answered your question, and as I said earlier, if you would like to check out my Redbubble shop, then I will leave a link below. If you have any other questions that you want me to answer on these Monday Q&A videos, then either message me on Instagram or leave a comment down below and I will try and get to them. So I will wrap it up there, and until next time, take care and I will see you later.